Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a playthrough of Darkest Night, 2nd edition. A few of the things that really attracted me to this game include the use of cards. There are many unique characters in the game, and each of these unique characters have a set of 13 cards that are specific to them. These cards often include very kinds of interesting abilities that allow you to manipulate gameplay in ways that are very exciting. And even though the dice-based aspect of the game isn't the most sort of interesting to me, I find that the way in which the cards allow for different kinds of combinations, or the way in which they allow you to mitigate certain game effects, are very interesting. I heard someone make comparisons of this to the 2nd edition of Arkham Horror, for example, and they say that something that makes that game interesting is the way in which there are so many different kinds of items and artifacts and spells that you could pick up, that they could have really dramatic effects upon the game, and that this is kind of different in the sense that instead you have these sorts of like very specific cards that you can manipulate, and 3 of which you always have access to from the beginning. I think for the 2nd edition, I'm also, very drawn to the artwork. I think that the production here is really very high quality. I really love the illustrations. In many ways, the illustrations of these characters remind me of the artwork of a contemporary visual artist, Jerome Opeña, who most recently has done the artwork for this series, this graphic novel series called 7 to Eternity. And you can see some example of Opeña's work here. And while this isn't directly similar or related to the work from Darkest Night, I think that there are some similarities in the way in which the characters are drawn and the way in which coloring is used that I find just to be really fascinating. And it's just, for me, a very visually pleasing kind of game. You will see here that I'm also using these very inexpensive GMT counters. These are less than $3 at my friendly local game shop, and I find them to be an extremely effective way in order to organize the blights that are a big part of the game, as well as the various kinds of components. Alright, so with that very basic introduction, we're going to go ahead and just get started. We'll jump right into gameplay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time as if this were a tutorial, but rather I will touch upon some key aspects of the rules and gameplay as we go along. We have assembled our map deck consisting of 20 cards, the classic configuration, which is described in detail within Darkest Night. It's really great that there is so much replayability here. There are many ways that you could customize this deck to give yourself a unique gameplay experience each time. Combined with the large number of characters, every game is going to play a little bit different from itself, so I think that's really great. And so I pulled the initial map card, and we could see the blights that were spawned are all of the monster variety, so they all are ringed in gold. Letting us know that if we eventually travel to these locations, we are going to be having the unenviable task of having to deal with these blights and these monsters at the end of our turn if we do not take them out in combat. So with that in mind, the first character I'm going to activate is the Nymph. And because you are activating all of your characters at first in the monastery, you do not need to draw an event card. So I am going to activate her character. And what I am going to do is to take advantage of activating the Autumn Season, the Autumn Power card. It says, as your action, you can deactivate all seasons, so that doesn't apply. I can gain 1 secrecy up to 7, which I will do. And now while this is active, I will always gain 1 secrecy at the start of each turn, and whenever I spend a grace, I would lose a grace. But that's not as interesting to me as what I might be able to use with the Gust Power card, and that says in the future I could exhaust this if Autumn is active in order to be able to attack twice. So with these kind of powerful blights we already have upon the board. That is something that really does interest me to be able to use this in a future turn, which is why I wanted to activate this now. Okay, for my next character, I'm going to go over to the Ranger. The Ranger is activated, and for his action, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the track ability. And so this says that you can exhaust to travel and then search. Normally, whenever you travel, you would gain 1 secrecy, but that would be up to a limit of 5. Because my Ranger is already at 7, that doesn't apply, but I am able to go ahead and travel over here to the village. I am not going to choose to attempt to fight this blight, which I might regret later, but instead what I'm going to do is attempt to search. Of all the different locations on the board, the village has one of the lowest search difficulties except for the castle, but at the village you are a little bit more likely to be able to find a mystery. And mysteries are important because they're one of the few ways in the game, maybe one of the only ways, that you could generate clues. And we need clues in order to be able to eventually purchase a holy relic at the cost of 10 clues per relic. And the relic gives us the ability to eventually defeat the Necromancer by capturing 3 and taking them to the monastery, or completing a fight roll of 6 against the Necromancer, and then adding 1 to that roll from the holy relic for a total of 7, which would allow us to defeat the Necromancer in battle. So let's go ahead and use the action here of the track. So we've exhausted it has allowed us to travel and then take a second action, which would be to search. So I will grab a single die. I need to roll a 3 or better. I've rolled a 5, which is good for me, so that allows me to generate this mystery. So we have pulled the Cultist's Grave. A mysterious cult is rumored to conduct its funerary rites here. If you investigate, you may uncover some of their secrets. So we don't gain any clues when we draw this card, as we sometimes would. It goes to a random location, which we will determine by rolling a die. So it goes here to the forest. And in the future, if one of my characters comes here to the forest as an action for their turn, they can draw 2 mysteries and then discard this card. So that's kind of unique. I've actually never seen this mystery before. It doesn't give us anything in this moment, but it does give us the option in one of our coming turns to be able to draw 2 more mysteries, which really is great. The Ranger is ending his turn here with the zombie, so he either has to fight or elude, and if he would fail, he would suffer 1 wound. So let's see, as a tactic, he can fight with 3 dice. If the highest die equals the target number, you both succeed and fail the roll. So it's a bit of a risk, but I'm going to go ahead and fight with 3 dice. I roll a 6, a 1, and a 5, so I do have 2 successes. The highest number is a 6 and not the target of 5, so I don't suffer the negative failure from the poison arrow. The poison arrow was simply effective at getting me out of this combat. I do not, however, defeat the zombie because I would have to attack the blight as the main focus of my turn, which this was not. This was simply me reacting to the blight's kind of effect. All right, so my next action, I am going to come over here to my Tinker, and I'm going to activate him. And actually what I'm going to do is to take a look at this stabilizing gadget. It says you could do this as your action for a turn. You can activate, optionally attempt a quest or mystery in your location with +1 die on any required roll. That doesn't apply to me right now, but I would like this active because that means that while it's active, I gain a spark at the start of all of my future turns. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that, and that will complete the Tinker's action. Next, I'm going to come over here to the Paragon. I will activate him. I think I'm going to take a moment to review his cards. And, I'm going to move him down here to the forest. This would be an example of traveling where I would gain 1 secrecy for the move, going up to 5. The move itself is my action, so I don't have the option of taking an action here on the mystery, and I don't have the option of attacking the zombie, but I do have to defend against it. I could choose to fight with 2 dice or try to elude with 1. I think I will go ahead and fight with 2. So I need one of these to come up as a 5 or more. So I've rolled a 6. So I am successful there. And that completes the first action of each of my characters. That means it is now the Necromancer's turn. So I go ahead and raise the terror level by 1. I will go ahead and roll a single die to see where he may move. I've rolled a 3. So when you take this action for the Necromancer, you look at the secrecy of all of your characters. If any of your characters have less than the number rolled, the Necromancer would then detect them and begin to move in their direction. That is not the case here, since they all have 3 or more secrecy. So what you do is you consult the location and you move the Necromancer where the number indicates. So in this case, a 3 moves the Necromancer into the village. I'll draw a map card, and I can see that in the village I will spawn more zombies. So this is not good because the blights are piling up in the village. I'm really glad now that I activated the Autumn Power card for the Nymph. So I will soon want to move her over here to the village to try to help the ranger in combat against these blights that are piling up. So that completes our first round. Okay, it's the beginning of the second round, and what I am going to do is I will start with the Paragon. I will draw an event card, which is the Ruined Golem. I have the option to fight or elude, and if I fail, I would lose a health. And I may not use powers other than tactics. So I think what I am going to do is to fight the golem with 2 dice, and I need a 5. I get 1, so I am safe. This can be discarded. And as the Paragon's action for the turn, he is going to draw 2 mysteries and then discard this. So we will place this at the bottom and then draw 2 more. So I draw the Vaults and Coded Journals. So let's see, when I draw the Vaults, I automatically earn 1 clue. So I will do that now. When I draw Coded Journals, I earn 3, so I will do that now. Let's see, I had none, I earned 1, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I am at 4 because I did not earn any for the other mystery I drew. Okay. The vault says, rumors speak of secret chambers within the castle holding yet unspoiled riches of treasure and lore. Search them out and claim their bounty. Coded Journal says, these enciphered manuscripts seem to contain limitless knowledge, but decoding them is a slow and laborious process. Okay, so in the vaults, we know it will be located in the castle, and whenever you're there, you gain 1 clue and a treasure chest if you roll a 5 or more, and then 1 clue and a treasure chest if you roll a 6 or more. So I will place this like so. This is located in a random location, so I'll roll a single die. Comes up as a 2. And we could see that means that it is going to be here, these coded journals in the runes. And this, as a permanent action, means that if you ever perform a hide action here, you can always gain 1 clue. So that is pretty good that it is a permanent possibility. So you can continue to rack up clues here if you hide, although hiding is not going to be very efficient for you, especially with all of these blights piling up. Just one of the small features, one of the small ways in which I think the game is showing, I think, its strong balance. Okay, so that completes the Paragon's turn. He's ending his turn here with the zombies, so he does have to fight. So he will use his 2 dice that he gets from the rebuke tactic. He rolls a 6 and a 3, so he successfully completes the combat, although he does not destroy the blight. Let's see, the ranger, I think I will hold off on the ranger for now. Instead, I think I want to activate the nymph, and I do not have to draw an event because she's in the monastery. Going to have her travel, so she's going to come over here. That is her action for the turn. Now she does have to, because she's ending her turn here, she does have to deal with these 2 blights. She could use the tactic of the bent bow to fight with 2 dice, exhausting if anyone comes up with a 1, so I think she will do that. This is her first combat against the zombie. She needs a 5 or more. She does not earn that, so she will suffer the penalty of 1 wound. Now I think I will have her attempt, when taking on the second zombie, to elude. So she just needs a 3 or more. And she earns a 3, so she has successfully eluded the second, and that completes her turn. Okay, for my next character, I think I will go ahead and activate the ranger. The ranger is going to need to lose 1 secrecy because he is starting his turn in the same location as the Necromancer. And he will have to draw an event card. Host of Haunts. The hollow moans and shrieks come from all directions, wrapping you in numbing dread. Okay, compared to your secrecy, my secrecy is currently a 6, so I have to face these wisps. I will use my tactic of the poison arrow to fight with 3 dice. And I need a 6 or more. I have a 5, so I fail the roll and lose 1 secrecy. Fair enough. Okay, it is now his turn, so I think I will have him attempt to destroy one of these blights, one of the zombies. So I would need to have an attack value of what you see here in the lower left-hand corner of the blight, as opposed to here, which is the stats I've been using previously because I've only been doing so in reaction to the blight. So let's see, I'm going to attempt to take it out, so that means I lose 1 secrecy. I'm going to fight with 3 dice. And I need a 5 or more. So I've rolled a 4, a 1, and a 3. Unfortunately, I am not successful, so I do have to suffer another wound. And that will end my turn. And since I'm stuck here, I do have to enter into combat once again. So I think what I'll do is try to elude each time. So when facing the first zombie, I roll a 5. I've successfully eluded. When I face the second, I've rolled a 3, so I've successfully eluded. So I got lucky with those rolls, thank goodness. Alright, it is now the Tinker's turn. He's in the monastery, so I do not draw an event. I do gain a spark at the beginning of his turn. And I think what I would like to have him do is move up into the mountains with the goal of eventually moving over to the castle. For one of my turns in the mountains, I do want to attempt to search because I would like to find an artifact. I really like the artifacts because they are an item. That means they could be traded amongst characters, giving them really great versatility. And the search value there is not extremely high. It's a 4, so the odds may be in my favor. So I'm going to go ahead and travel. I would normally earn 1 secrecy, but I'm already at 6, so that does not apply. That means the next thing I have to do is defend myself against this shade. I would need to roll a 3. I don't have any way to gain combat dice, so I'm going to roll 1 die, and I need a 3 or more, which I do not have. I have a 2, which means I suffer 1 wound, which I'll take now. That ends the second turn of all of my heroes. We will go to the Necromancer's turn, raising the terror level. We will then go ahead and roll a single die, which comes up as a 6, which means both my Ranger and the Paragon have less than that. The Ranger is at 4 and also closer to the Necromancer, so he's going to stay where he is. Let's see what kind of blight he will spawn. He spawns an Unholy Aura. So we're going to take a moment to go ahead and add that to the village. It will be the 3rd blight. If you ever add 4 and then need to add a 5th, that would generate a blight in the monastery. If there are ever 4 or more blights in the monastery, you've lost the game. So we're beginning to have a lot of pressure applied to us already. And the Unholy Aura says that you must use 1 less die when fighting, and that's not good because these zombies mean we have to do a lot of fighting. So we need to really take advantage of the Nymph's ability to fight twice to be able to begin to clear up the village a little bit, which right now is just a total mess. Oh my goodness. Je déteste la nuit. Never more so than when playing Darkest Night. I'm going to go ahead and reset the counters here, and then we will come back for the start of the next round. I hope you all will tune in for the next video. We'll see if my heroes are able to make any more progress on this very darkest of nights.